Welcome to This Wasn't the Plan podcast. I'm Kali.
And I'm Brittany.
And we're two best friends who met during breast cancer treatment in our 30s. This rocked our world, but we managed to get through it together. We've laughed, cried, and learned a lot along the way.
This is our real, raw, and honest journey, and we're here to help you feel less alone in yours. Thanks for listening. Now let's get on with the show.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. It's the last few days of our winter break, and so I'm trying to kind of do all the things before the, normal flow of life starts again. So, yeah, just kind of still like, what day is it?
Honestly, I know. I was convinced Thursday was Friday. I would have bet money on it. And then I was like, no, it's actually Thursday. It's just, I also took the wrong vitamins that day. So that's why I was convinced it was Friday because I was taking my Friday case on
Wait.
accident. I know.
Oh, is it the same vitamins, just a different case?
Yeah,
or...
yeah. I have a weekly vitamin organizer. And so it says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I think my Thursday was still in my backpack or something. So I grabbed Friday being like, oh, it's Friday today. And then I was like, it's Friday. And it wasn't. So it was stupid.
Living our lives dictated by our vitamins.
I know that. Is that not the most integrative cancer patient thing you've ever heard someone say?
That could be a meme.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I know what day it is by my vitamin case. By the day of the, what is it? How do you say that?
I've seen, and I think this is something people talk a lot about in the integrative cancer world, where this is so off topic, but we're going with it. Do you tend to stick well with the organizers? Because I bought them and I just don't use them, and it's just not for me.
Well, you know me, and I'm very organized. But also I take so many every day, and at different times of the day. I actually bought a new one that's has 4 separators for the day. So, because I have some for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and bedtime. And in fact, I have some that I have to take right when I wake up, and those are in another case. So I like it because otherwise I'd have to sit there for at least 15 minutes before, after every meal, trying to get my vitamins. And then, how long it takes me to actually take the vitamins because I gag. So I'm having it all. I just do it once a week. It just makes, I think it's such a time saver. And also if you're on the go, which you are on the go, you go to work, how are you supposed to take them with you? What do you do?
I do the organizers, I think. So I do use them sometimes. I did very diligently last year. I think I was more of a do them every morning for the day kind of person. I have 3 little acrylic bins in my kitchen, and I've got my morning or my daytime supplements, my before bed supplements, and then the extras. And I've honestly found just grabbing them when needed tends to work a little better. I mean, it really is our personalities in a nutshell, though, because I try so hard to be organized. I had them all, and it is so satisfying, and I just love it. And then I just don't sustain that habit. I will say though, I have been less consistent lately with my supplements. I think a lot of it is just the last 3 months of my life have been insane. And, so as we're getting back into a normal flow and I have a few less external things going on that are, I feel like January is slowing down a little bit. I might try again because when I get ready for work, I have I'm okay, I know once I start making breakfast, coffee, getting my lunch packed, that's 30 minutes. And so I have to allow that amount of time before I need to leave. And if I could do some of the things and just grab them and have them ready and not be counting my chlorella tablets as I need to be leaving out the door, I think it would help. So
I
maybe that'll be
I
a 2026 goal, which is a good segue.
I was just gonna say that is a really good segue to what this episode is about this week,
Yeah,
and it's not about vitamin
it's
organization.
not. No, we're talking
But
about goal setting. Like with it being right around the new year, I think everyone is in a little bit of this headspace. I know, you know, the sentiments around New Year's resolutions for a while they were like a big thing, and then people were kind of like, these suck. I don't keep them, so I'm just gonna like not do them at all. And now I feel like, at least for me, like New Year's goal setting, like January is a time of like hibernation and reflection and all of that. And I do love to do this like full cycle of reflection and then set goals and intentions for the next year. Um, but when you're in the Cancer world, I feel like it's a little bit challenging. There are a lot of factors that we have to consider that are outside of our control, and it changes the game a little bit. So I think the main thing we're talking about today is just how do you continue to set goals for yourself when the ultimate goal, which is health, is something that you're working on and sometimes feels like it's out of your control.
yes, and I think it's good to mention that, like, um, you when talking about how you do this at the beginning of the year, like, how you felt when you were diagnosed around this well, around, the holidays towards the end of the year, and I am currently feel that way, so
Mhm.
I'm still in it. So when me and Brittany made our lists, they're different, but there are some similarities, but we obviously have, like, different goals, we're different people, but they kind of like, my goals are how to, like, because obviously my number one goal is remission. That is like the thing I want more than anything. That's all I want, really. There's nothing else that matters is, health. But so much of it is out of my control. And so all the goals that I made this year were like kind of indirectly helping me achieve like more of like a mental health space that like allows healing to happen.
Mhm.
That's kind of maybe my more like I'd say overarching theme of my 2026 goals. Um and then I was thinking, do you want to just read them? Do you want to go back and forth between our goals and like this is really more like obviously specific to us, but I think there's stuff in here that people can find inspiration from or find useful or helpful or
Mhm.
relatable because I know there's people listening that are going through a cancer diagnosis or someone they love is and um yeah, I can feel really like ugh, like
Yeah.
I just want this thing. Okay, like, I can't get this thing. Um so do you want to start?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, like you mentioned, I was diagnosed in December of 2023. And obviously, there's like, I mean, it's a long time of like WTF, but for sure, the first few weeks, it's just, you know, you have nothing on your mind besides cancer. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we're in winter break mode. And I'm like, desperately wanting to look ahead for the next year with hope. And I have this like, you know, rhythm that I'm like, oh, I'm going to do set goals. And I was like, wait, how the hell do I set goals? How do I set goals when the only thing that matters is remission and health and feeling good? And I think those are two very separate things. You can, engage with every single therapy and medication and thing that the Western medical world offers and feel like absolute garbage and have lasting effects for the rest of your life. And so I think remission and feeling well are two things that I was like, I want both, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but I was talking to my therapist about it. And this was again like 2 years ago. And I was like, I'm just really discouraged. I have no idea how to have any semblance of a normal life. Like, I still want to do these things, but, like, outside of, obviously showing up and doing all of the things to get there, there's still factors outside of my control. And how do I set any other goal besides that? And she was just kind of like, okay, there are still small tangible things within your life that you can set goals for, whether it's a hobby or a reading goal or things that you can do that could contribute to health, but in maybe like a less rigid side that are fun, like that bring joy. Like if you want to work on your nervous system health, maybe you pick up knitting, because that is working on your nervous system health. Or for me, one of the things was watercolor. I have yet to do it, but it was a goal. um, so I think just like always reframing and trying to find, in the midst of all of the hard that we have to do, um, finding things that bring joy that can still help you achieve your goals. Another example is 4 years ago. Um, it was when I was definitely in the process of developing a tumor and I didn't know it. I had put on some weight, especially in my stomach area. I think it was a lot of hormonal imbalance stuff. And rather than being like, I want to lose blank amount of pounds, like I set a goal to do this yoga posture that was really hard that I couldn't do, that I knew would make me show up for my yoga classes and exercise, and it made it really fun, and it literally took me a whole year, but I did it, and, so I think it's stuff like that that you can do, in the midst of pursuing the ultimate goal, which is health.
That's a
Um,
really good, that's a really good workaround, like doing that, like setting your goal for the yoga pose. Like that's really smart way to do it. Cause I think most people who want to lose weight say, okay, I'm going to walk every day. I'm going to run. Or they just say like, okay, I'm going to lose
yeah.
weight, but they don't set like a goal like you did. And that's really smart. What was the pose? Did you,
Well, it's called 2 different things. It's called forearm stand or
mm,
pincha. So think about like a handstand, but you're on like if this is the floor, like you're on your full forearms and then you kick your the rest of your body up in the air.
ooh,
Um, so if you look up pincha, Pincha, it's really hard, but it's fun. And it's just like a good balance challenge. I don't know, I'd stick around
mhm.
after class every time and work on it. So,
Oh.
um, I tried it about 2 months ago and I have some work to do. So, it's not like riding a bike.
No, I would think standing on your head is not like riding on a bike.
All right. So that was my first kind of like lead in thought process around goal setting. Um and then, I am 2 years out. I still have cancer goals and like health goals in general. But I am in a place where I can start. My word for the year is reclaim, and that's because I feel like the last 2 years, I worked really hard to not have a victim mentality, but I still do see where I was like, "This is out of my control, and I can't do this," and, like, I wouldn't say that's victim mentality, that's just what it was the reality, like, and I think my I'm really trying to reclaim some of that power and autonomy in my life to say, "Hey, like, I'm gonna if I if I'm want to go on a trip, I am in a place where I can save for that. That is not everyone's reality. That is when you're in active treatment, it's just sometimes not a thing, like we talked about last week. But I think I want to work a little bit on that. So, um, in getting to that, another thing that I do kind of as like step 1 is, I take myself on like a fun date, and that can be to my office or a coffee shop, or if you're lucky enough to live in Southern California, maybe your backyard or a park. I'm not doing a whole lot of outdoor stuff at this point in the year. And then I know we all have different lives, but, if possible, spend a few hours with yourself. You, yourself, me, myself, and I.
Mhm.
and reflect on your prior year. I think that's a really good place to start. And so I sit down and I have a journal and my phone and I look at photos in my album. And I often will break it out into like, okay, January, these are the things that happened, or, you know, this is kind of a summary of the month. And it takes me a while, but it really helps bring up different things that I might have forgotten if I just think about the year and move on. So it helps
Do you
me.
oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. What's up?
I was just gonna ask, do you do that to kind of look at, like, progress that you made in that year, or do you do it to kinda look back and see where there's room for growth for the next year, or is it just more of just a basic reflection?
It's kind of just a basic reflection. Like, I think I can lack mindfulness in things I do. I just get in like do mode. And then I am like, what even happened last year? It's a blur.
Mhm.
Um, I was thinking today, I was like, oh, I should go back and see. Like, I don't think in 2025 I set a ton of goals because again, I was like, I'm so unclear on like am I going to do surgery? Am I not? Am I get like what does cancer treatment and stuff look like? But I do want to look at that a little bit. In a typical year, I would probably in that same time say like, "Oh, where did I meet my goals?" Um or, what and then like evaluate that. Like are there things in your control that you'd like to change? Maybe you didn't reach, the yoga posture that you wanted to do, and then you're like, "Well, my screen time is 5 hours a day," and there are some times where you have to have tough love with yourself, and then
Mm,
there's things where you're like, "Yeah, I am doing the best I can." So
okay. Thanks for clarifying.
mhm. So yeah, I think that that's kind of like where I start, is just like reflection and, um that kinda gives you a good idea of where you're currently at and just what happened in the previous year, and then, I have, like, pillars or sections for goals. I think a lot of people do this. I'm not, like, the person who invented it, but, whether it's physical health, mental, emotional health, spiritual health, financial health, relational health, blah, blah, like, you fill it in, um, and make them measurable and fun, and that's kind of what I talked about earlier, like, set something that makes you happy to chase. I think seeing the scale go down another pound is not gonna, like, spark joy in the way that, like, going to, maybe a adult hip hop class and learning a new skill or something that could still get you there. So
Mhm. Yeah. You're really good at this. I never really thought about it like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, I think I'm really, kind of I think I've been, like, more black and white with goal setting, like, let's just say, like, pre-cancer self, when I
Uh-huh.
had, like, usual goals of most people, like, read more, sleep more, like, do things more, lose weight, like, work
Yeah.
out more, whatever. Like, it was just, like, very simple and broad, like, I didn't have them very specific, achievable, or fun, which is why I never followed through with any of them. Probably why nobody follows through.
I think it's true, like, you have to make it something that's gonna, I don't know, make you happy. Like, how can you meet your goals and spark joy?
I think your creative side really shines in
Yeah.
this for sure, whereas, like, my, like, probably analytical side, or I don't know, the side that isn't helpful to this shines through when I do goal setting. Um,
Yeah.
okay, sorry. Just
No,
you
yeah, I think that it's fun to hear, like, how we all do it differently, and,
Mhm,
um, yeah, I think, some of this was inspired by, like, at work, we use a system called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, and I think it's been helpful because then I just take some of those things and I'm like, "How do I do that in my life?" And I'll talk about that in a second. But okay, another thing that I see a lot of people do, and I do too, so no criticism on it, is word of the year. And I think in the whole like we're over New Year's resolutions movement came the word of the year. And I think one thing I noticed within myself is like, what does that actually mean? Like, what is that going to change in your life? If your word of the year is like love, like joy, whatever. I think for me that stresses me out because then I'm like, how measurable is that? Like, what am I going to do with it? You know, am I going to get to December of next year or of, a year from now and be like, oh, I really didn't have any more joy. So in the past, I do still use word of the year, but I use it to kind of inspire my goals within the pillars that I have. So like in 2023, goal was like fertility, pregnancy, growth. And so my word was bloom. Um, that that word of the year didn't work out so well.
That's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, and then before my diagnosis, though, I had decided my word for 2024 was believe, and that applied very strongly post diagnosis. I was like, yeah, we're keeping it. 2025 it was healing, and this year is reclaim. So I think it does then go down into like my physical health goal is to reclaim some of the strength and endurance that maybe I lost. My spiritual health is like reclaim my belief that God is all powerful and all loving. Reclaim my belief that God is good. Those are some things that I want to come out on the other side of this year. And so then, like, what do I need to do to achieve that? And maybe that's like read a book. I have a book that I have yet to read, but I bought Walking with God Through Pain and Suffering by Tim Keller. And, doing that or reading certain books of the Bible that might speak into that goal. So it helps me kind of take on the year from a holistic, like big picture
Mhm.
lens. Um, and then I think my last thing is just like, if you really want, and this is the work side of me, like we do this where we break it out into quarters. So if you start with maybe your word of the year, and then you're like, all right, let's just talk about all the different pillars of my life. And I think even in cancering, you can do this. Like, um, you might be in active treatment, but you can set relational goals. Like, let people show up for me. Ask someone to come with me to every single treatment session. If you want to maintain friendships, um, maybe that's a way you could do it. Or um, cancer takes a toll on marriage. How do you build in a goal for you and your spouse that can make you guys stronger a year from now than you are right now?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think then you could break it down by quarter. So like for me, quarter one of this coming year, I anticipate probably having a surgery. I don't know the date yet. They could come to me and be like, "Oh, I can't get you until April." I don't think that will be the case, but um I'm just kind of earmarking like quarter one, I'm possibly going to have a surgery. So don't be like in quarter one I'm going to do 100 push-ups in a row, you know.
Right.
And so then trying to build in quarter two, three, four, like regain mobility and strength and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I interpreted, speaking to goal setting within cancer. I think you had a kind of a similar but different approach. Do you want to talk about yours?
Sure. It's funny, like hearing how you did your goal setting. It's so organized, and it flows really nicely that I kind of want to like take your notes and do that for myself and do it over again. I mean, I wrote down like in my journal like my specific goals for the year. But this list is really like for me because I'm still inactive because I still have active cancer and I'm still actively trying to, you know, um, get rid of it,
Mhm.
and maintain health. And there's like also a lot of other like physical challenges that I'm facing. Um, a lot of this like really has put has been hard on me mentally.
Mhm.
And so most of my goals are like somehow related to like helping my mindset, which honestly should probably be like one of my words of the year. I don't know. I've never just heard of word of the year, to be honest. I
Really?
think, no, the only thing I've ever seen is like were like on Instagram maybe, and it's like a word jumble, and it's like the first 4 words are gonna be your words this year, and
Yeah.
I can tell you that they have never worked out for me, so I that's the only thing I've ever heard. It's probably like I feel like maybe I aged out of this, like, I don't know, I've never heard a word of the year.
Either maybe, or I honestly, it could be one of those, like, my subset of Christianity things. Like, I see a
Maybe.
lot of people within the church, do stuff like that. But yeah.
Okay. Alright, well, I'll think about my word of the year. I need to, like I need to come up with one because I really like that. Okay, so
One
my
other tip
mhm,
before you get started. I've never done this before because ChatGPT/AI did not exist in my world prior. I have been informed by somebody recently. It's existed for like 20 years, AI. But I, you have to be very careful to not let AI set your goals for you. That's not recommended in any way, shape, or form. But I like wrote all my like different sections out, and then I copied and pasted it in, and I was like, "Give me some suggestions," like, kind of just thesaurus style for word
mhm,
of the year based on the themes you're seeing, and that is how I came up with reclaim. I did not think of that one myself, but I saw it and I was like, "Hell yeah, that is it." So, I think utilizing AI in a smart way that's, still tapping into your unique thoughts, to start the process is the only other thing I meant to mention.
okay. I mean, maybe I'll do that. ChatGPT has led me down some really scary wormholes lately, so I've taken a break from him. Um, we're on a break. Anyways, okay, so back to my list. My first thing is, um, don't compare yourself or your situation to anyone else. You are unique and your healing is unique. This one's important because just today I was thinking about somebody who was um went kind of like a similar healing protocol as I did and just healed so fast. And I kind of got stopped in my tracks and I like kind of took my breath away a little bit. Like I got like I don't know if anxious is the right word, but I was just like, oh my God, I'm 2.5 years in this. Like, and then I spiraled. And then I'm like, okay, we're different. Everybody's different. All of our healing, all of our cancers, all of our chronic illnesses, whatever, everything is so different that it's just so useless and it's so and I mean, I feel like this is advice that we give ourselves and women all the
Mhm.
time with like everything. Like don't compare yourself. Don't compare your life to others. Like social media so is such a like wormhole for this. But it's just another reminder and it's important. And that's like at the top of my list because I've been doing that lately.
Mhm.
Number 2 is to make plans. You kind of touched on this. Um, I feel like I didn't make plans last year and I found myself in the last like few months of the year being hesitant to make plans because I was getting like sick from like IVs just I was getting this weird reaction to things and we just don't know what it is. So I like my schedule is like so unpredictable because I make plans and then I don't feel good and I have to cancel and I hate canceling and then I feel bad and blah 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 blah. It's like, cycle. Um and then I was like kind of starting to do that with like vacations when I was saying like, "Oh, I'm going to plan all these vacations." And then I was like, "Oh, but what if I get sick?" And then I can't go and then we lose out on that money again or blah 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 blah. And then, it's just and I just had to like quiet the noise in my brain and make the plans claim that I'm claiming that I will be there.
Mhm.
And, we can't predict anything in this life. So it's like, why not have something to look forward to? And I was just I don't know if I said this on the podcast last week. Did I mention that me and Danny did not go out to
Mm-mm.
dinner once?
No.
Okay, we went out to dinner last week, and we realized that was the first time we went out to dinner the entire year,
Oh my gosh.
maybe longer. Like we never go out to dinner like with each other, just like on a date. And so that's crazy. And I'm like, okay, we can't do that. We need to like put time. I mean, we do like at home date dinners, and it wasn't like fully cancer, it wasn't just cancer. It was because, like, we had a, very strict bedtime for our son, and we had sleep trained him, and we just, like, did not want to mess that up, and we'd had to be home by, like, 6:30 to achieve that every day, so it was, like, kinda hard to go out to dinner.
Mhm.
But not trying to make excuses for ourselves, we are gonna do that this year. Okay, so that was number 2, make plans.
You know
Um
what? I think that that's one thing though, like, I this is dark. This is a weird thing, but, I think cancer makes you think about your own mortality, and, like, I sent an email for April, um, and I was like, "Oh my god, what if I get hit by a car and I'm not here in April?" Like, it just these crazy or what if cancer, this and that? What if blah like, fill in the blank. We all have to wrestle with these things, and I think that's a really good, like, just being like, "Nope, I'm gonna make this plan a year." It's kinda makes me think of when Brennan and I were first dating, and he asked me to go to a wedding with him that was, like, 8 months from that date. I was like, "You think we're gonna be together in March of next year?" And so I feel like this is just asking yourself out on those dates.
Yeah, I'm in a serious relationship with my body,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be healthy enough to go on that vacation that I'm going to plan.
Yes.
Another one I said was, like, just find local community. This is very specific to me because I live in a city where I don't have a real community here. I don't have family local. I don't have like a group of friends. So sometimes it can feel very like lonely and like isolating. And like I have friends that are like the closest friend is like 30 minutes away. Not
Hmm.
that far. But with kids and I mean it's just like really hard to like make plans and but I realized that like how much I'm like missing that and I was like kind of starting to like hang out with some like friends that I had known from like childhood, high school, but then it like cancer kept getting in the way for me and I just was like I don't want to keep like I don't want to make plans with these people because I'm going to cancel on them inevitably and
Mm.
like they probably aren't going to want to they just can't count on me, you know? And I think that's a really crappy way to look at I don't know, life and people and I should have more faith in others.
Mhm.
But anyways, yeah, it's just like try to find a community. I was thinking about maybe joining like the Bible study at my church. That's kind of like on my goal list.
Mhm.
So I can like get out of the house once a week, learn about something that I'm interested in, don't know anything about. And I don't think it's like particularly young group, but you know, it's people and it's good to like make it, have some sort of community. And we've talked about this. We had a whole episode about community
Mhm.
and here I am with none locally. So it's like
But I think that's, like, the difference, right? Like, especially, like, your community, even from far and wide, showed up for you when you got diagnosed, but, like, at some point, they have to go back to their life hours away, and it's much harder, and I was reading somebody who is in the cancer world, her reflection on 2025, and it was kinda like, a year removed from the tragedies that led to, like, her diagnosis. And like people have to go back to their life. It's like no judgment on people, but I think having people locally, like in my church who I see every single week, is really good. And one other thing you'd said, like, there might not be people your age or, a lot of young people, but I think sometimes I find myself, like, in our church relating to the women who are, like, 55 plus a little bit because 'cause I'm like, we're facing the same challenges a lot more than people who are in their 30s who are all, like, talking about, things most normal 30-year-olds are facing, so I don't think there's
True.
anything bad about, like, the multi-generational wisdom.
You know what? You're totally right. And also, it kind of makes me a little triggered when we're, the fertility stuff. And that's usually what women are talking about at our age.
Mhm.
And I don't really want to have that conversation with anybody. So it probably is better for me to hang out with people who are already
Yeah.
in
You
menopause.
guys are gonna pull out your hot flash fans together, and they're not talking about the sleep they didn't get from their newborn, so you don't have to worry about that.
Exactly. Okay. Awesome. Great advice. Okay. Moving on to my next one. Set an attainable, tangible goal that enables you to feel like you've accomplished something. So for me, my example is my goal is to read 24 books this year. That was my goal last year, but I didn't start the goal till June. So I was kind of like behind. So this year I've started it January, 24 books. Now, I love to read. I think it's fun. This is like an easy goal for myself, but I also feel like it helps me mentally in that, like, so much of going through, like, cancer treatments feels like you're not accomplishing anything because you're just doing so many, so I do so much, and with, like, sometimes little return, and so, like, that can kinda get to me mentally, whereas, like, the simple act of reading a book fit and, like, completing it and finishing it makes me feel like I just did something. I feel, like, proud of myself, and and that helps me mentally. And
Mhm.
so it's just, like, kind of, like, builds on that, like, mental health aspect of my goals for the year.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think you that was one thing I loved learning about you is like what a great reader you are, and like I think you just read such a like plethora of things. Like like one you're the only person I know who likes to read these like memoirs about people I've never heard of. And like you just love you can tell you have such an appreciation for even like showbiz and like comedy and like I'm like making really low-hanging fruit jokes, and you're, like, reading the autobiography of some guy who invented something about SNL or I don't know what, people who I
Lorne Michaels,
yeah, I
he's
thought it was a
very,
woman.
very down.
Yeah, it's a me thing, I'm the idiot here, but,
You are not an
um
idiot. Do not say that. You love to read too, and I love reading. We like reading. I like a lot of the same books you like, except I don't
mhm,
like thrillers.
yeah, and I think I've never really been a memoir gal. I didn't know and that's, like, one of your big so,
I
anyways,
think I really like learning about people and their
yeah.
stories. I'm always, like, very interested in, like, other people's stories. Maybe I'm just really nosy. I don't know, but I just, like, think that I love hearing about how people got to where they got, like, how they achieved, like, success or whatever, their upbringings. I don't know, I just find it really interesting. But,
Yeah, but I think what I my point with all of that rant was, like, you that's a really good example of, like, yeah, you might not wanna set a goal of, like, get 50 vitamin C IVs this year. Like, that is not a fun goal, that's not I mean, it is something that you're putting your resources toward, and so it feels like everyone else can achieve so many other, like, fun goals that maybe you can't, but, like, you can read. You can read while you're sitting in your chair, doing your RV, you can do all and it gives you that sense of, like, power and accomplishment. You're like, "Hey, I just read another book." So, that's a great one.
thank you. Okay, and then this one is establish a daily practice of something. So, like, I I think I have found that for myself, establishing a daily practice of journaling helps me tremendously. And um, I started to kind of do it alongside like a devotional. Like I just bought one, a new one for the year. And it kind of helps me because sometimes I feel like the prompt or the day, that day, it just like relates to what's going on in my life or helps me think of things in a different way. But in any case, getting out my feelings is therapeutic. I am holding a lot of thoughts in my mind, and I know I do therapy and everything, but there's not enough time in the day um, to get all these thoughts out. So it's like it's good to, write them down. Um, I would like to get back to like doing the affirmations that were given to me in the beginning of my diagnosis because I think those are really helpful. I've kind of stopped doing them, and I feel like right now more than ever I need them. And so establishing that daily practice, it's like another thing of okay, help it's every day. It's simple. It's not doesn't take that long. I
Agreed.
feel a sense of accomplishment, helps my mental health. Um and when I'm in a better mental health space, I'm in a better healing space. And then the next one is kind of similar, but I kind of came up with this during my therapy session and it was kind of like word of the year, but mine's mantra of the year. Um It can be simple, you can have multiple. I have 2 that are, like, very specific to me, and that's because, it's like a negative thought pattern that I had in my brain for till now, still kind of have, and I'm trying to work out of it, and the first one is, "This is not a punishment."
Mhm.
Um, so often I feel like I don't know, maybe it's victim mentality, but, like, just the things that I face it feels like it's a punishment of some kind. I don't know what I'm being punished for, but I just feel like I'm paying for something because it's
Mm.
just, like, too hard, and, I did this, like, healing ceremony, um, at my church, and the priest actually didn't know me, and I don't know if I'm so sorry if I already mentioned this on the podcast, but he didn't know me. He knew something was wrong with me, like, I was sick, but he didn't know with what. Um, and he started saying, giving me kind of like advice, but one thing he said was, "This is not a punishment." And I just was like, "Whoa," because I say that whenever I'm like crying, I'm always like, "I feel like I'm being punished." And I've said it over and over and over again. It's just like something that I've felt so much. And when he said that to me, I was like, "Oh my gosh, is this like God trying to tell me that he's not punishing me?"
Right.
And so anyways, I took that and I have been when I get, like, really down, I just say to myself, "This is not a punishment. This is not a punishment." When I go through hard times, "This is not a punishment. This is not a punishment." And so that's my mantra for the year. It's not uplifting or anything, but it's very specific.
Rewiring your brain.
Yeah, I am. I'm rewiring my brain because it's a unfortunate negative thought pattern that I can't get out of. And then the second part is more uplifting, and it's my body is capable of healing, and I believe in its power to fully heal. And so those are like my 2 mantras for the year. And I think anybody developing a mantra of some kind is like whenever we find ourselves in like a position of weakness or just any hard time, just something to say over and over again. And I think it helps you get through it. And then I have 2 more. Um, the next one is to get dressed every day. Now this is like a goal. This is something I used to like really do until I started feeling like crap. And then I stopped getting dressed, putting on makeup. Did I change my underwear? Probably, but I don't know. It's hard to say, honestly. I hope I did. But in any case, get dressed every day because or like make yourself presentable. Like don't be like a slob kebab because I do believe that when you look good, you feel good or when you feel good about yourself, you are just like more productive. You're more confident. Um you're I don't know, your mental health is better. And Um, it's just I think it matters. And like, it's kind of like fake it till you make it. Like maybe you aren't feeling great, but you get dressed, you get kind of cute, you go to where do I go? Doctor's office, the only place I go. Go to your local cancer center, you get your IV, you're looking good, you're feeling great. That's healing. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's just um something I feel kind of strongly about.
I've never like I know a lot of people have that like as kind of a thing, and I've always been like, like I don't think it really matters. I think I'm most productive in my sweatpants with a messy bun, but um I I was at the cancer center, like where I get my Zoladex injection, the hospital. And I saw this nurse who just looked pretty run down, very tired, like, and I had never seen her before, and I kind of didn't trust the care that she was gonna provide because I was like, "She's not clearly not doing well." And it kinda gave me a new mentality of, like, I want people to trust that I am okay enough to, you know, trust me. And I think it does because I sometimes forget, like, that might be someone's first time meeting you, and, it really does matter, and so it's kinda just a good reminder for me of, like, I don't have to, like, be quite as cute as you because I do think that you show up to your, like, appointments and whatever, I'm like, you guys are just lucky I'm here." Um, but I think it was one of those, like, you know what? Even if all the stuff I just said y doesn't matter, like, maybe you're not gonna talk to anybody, it's not a meeting, but I do think there is something about, like, you're feeling better, and so you're gonna, like, show up for yourself in a way. So, last week, I had no makeup on, and even see, like, this week, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna take 15 minutes and get ready for our podcast recording." So, people on Spotify are blessed to see that this week I have a face on.
We are blessed. You are blessing us with that beautiful face
Thank
and
you.
those bangs. Mm, well, I think it's I don't know, it's hard because, like, when I was in Idaho for those 2 weeks, I didn't put on I did not put on makeup. I barely I barely got dressed. I mean, I was really slobbing, but I was also really uncomfortable. I was physically
Mhm.
in pain. I was mentally in pain, and it showed in the way I was dressing, you know? Like, I never wore a bra. I don't even know if I brought one. I barely packed up. I can't even tell you. I did change my socks. I did shower, but I was just like, I didn't wanna get ready, and, like, I didn't look great, and I think sometimes people will, like you said, like, treat you how you look, kind of, and, like, I feel like my doctor always knows how I'm doing based on how I'm dressed because when I don't feel good, I don't get dressed. Like, I don't look cute when I go to my doctor's office. When I feel great, I do get ready. I'm not saying I'm taking hours to put on makeup and, like, you know, hours to pick out my outfit, but I'm just, like, not in my pajamas. I've, done my hair and I put on, like, mascara and blush, and eyebrow pencil, of course. Um,
Of course.
but, like, they can always tell how I'm feeling based off that, and, like, I think there's a part of it for me is, like, I've always wanted to present that I am well and
Mhm,
that I feel good so that people treat me that way and that they don't feel worried about me,
mhm,
because when they're worried about me, I'm worried about myself, and that's always kind of how I've felt the entire diagnosis. Well, except in the postpartum, time,
Oh,
that was a
yeah.
different
Mhm,
beast, but overall, I usually like to, be like, "No, I'm fine. Look at me. I look great. I don't look like I have cancer.
mhm,
Therefore, you need not to worry about me, and you can treat me like a very put together, healthy young woman. Thank you." So I think there's a little bit of that aspect with the whole
mhm,
getting dressed when you are, you know, going through a cancer journey. And then, of course, if you're going it's a chemo day, I'm not saying get dressed. It is hard. You don't feel good, no judgment. This is not a judgment thing.
mm-mm,
Anyways, okay, then my last one, moving on. This is also for me, but probably other people can relate, is to cut the word perfect out of my vocabulary because I have a perfectionist problem. I always want everything to be perfect. Perfection is a deception. Um, you'll work your whole life to be perfect and you'll never get there. And how it relates to cancer is healing is imperfect. You try so hard to be on this like perfect diet, perfect non-toxic lifestyle, perfect vitamin regimen, perfect healing modalities, like the perfect treatments. And it's just there's just no you can't be perfect and you will inevitably fail and then you'll feel terrible and you'll blame yourself and I just like hate the word perfect and I want to erase it from my brain. Like I am not perfect. I don't know why
Mhm.
I feel like I need to be. Um but I've had that my whole life. So that's my last 2026 goal and that's my list. Very
I love
kind of
it.
specific to me.
Yeah. I think that that's I appreciate you sharing those. And I think yeah, like I love that, my brain kind of went to like process and then yours went to like application. And I think they're both so important. Like how are we setting goals? And like, I don't know, people hearing this might be like, oh, that's such a good, I want that to be a goal for me. Or, a lot of my goals I get as inspiration from other people. I think I mentioned like the watercolor thing. And I think I'd seen somebody else doing like watercolor for their nervous system. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a fun, creative way to slow down,
Mhm.
And so yeah, thanks for sharing. I know it can feel vulnerable to be like, hey everybody, these are the things that I want to work on. Especially when like there's so many other things. And I go back and forth on setting goals around the like cancering stuff because I'm like, I want to check some boxes, man. Like
Mhm.
I want to show myself, not anybody else, like I did some stuff. But like who wants their goals? I think I said this last week. Like who wants their goal to be like show up for my 12th Zoladex injection or like so yeah, I
Those are
think
things
it's
we
good to hear.
do. They're
Yeah.
not like things I get to choose to do.
Yeah.
So that's not a goal for me.
Mhm. Mhm. All right. Well, yeah, I don't know. I think this is such a fun time of year. Uh I think framing it as fun and self-improvement and development as like, ooh, rather than from a shame and perfectionistic standpoint, because I think then it becomes not fun at all. If it's like, oh, I suck at this, I need to be better at this.
Mhm.
Um, or I think, the classic like body shame, which is a lot of I think that's why resolutions got such a bad rap because it's like, well, we all just came out of the holidays and we're binging and now we're going to tell ourselves we're overweight and our goal is to lose 20 pounds and show up to the gym for 2 weeks and then we give up. And so I think just coming at our goals from a place of self-love and creativity and building rhythm that can provide, a framework for a good year is kind of the name of the game. So, anything else you want to say about 2026, your hopes and dreams?
Well, I also had one more goal that was well, no, I should say I had written my own personal goals, but one of them was about our podcast and it was to grow our podcast in 2026.
Mhm.
So that is a goal of mine and indirect and yours indirectly because you're part of the podcast.
I'm
So
along for the ride.
you're here. I'd love to grow our podcast this year and, make it better. And I don't know exactly how to do that, but we're going to figure it out. If there's any experts out there who know how to grow podcasts, please DM me or Brittany because I don't check my DMs. And that, and then also, I think it'd be really fun at the end of 2026, obviously, it's a year from now, go back and look at our goal list and do an
Mhm.
episode and see like how far we've come and like what we've accomplished, because we
I
will,
love
and we will achieve it because we believe it. And I just want to say happy goal setting to everyone listening. And
that.
thanks for your wisdom and your advice.
All
It was
right. Well, good luck, everybody, as we set goals and we'll start achieving them. Thanks for listening to our podcast. We have a big favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and leave a review. It really helps people find us.
Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Bye.